did draw you to this story? What made you want to make this documentary?
Well, Rob retired. And when you're speaking about the reunion, I knew that he did not know, but I knew that over 100 women were coming back. And I was a freelance producer at the time, so you're always trying to find stories or the next project and something to get moving forward. And we so often, I think, look for what stories happening somewhere else, and all these great stories are out there. They're somewhere else. And I was like, we have a really great story here in Missoula. Something really wonderful and special happened to a degree that I didn't understand it when I started. But I came to fully appreciate by the time we were finished. So Rob's retirement kind of kicked things off because you wouldn't be able to recreate that. We couldn't say, okay, would everybody come back? And then Rob's going to come in and we're going to pretend we don't know that we're filming. You couldn't capture that moment. It had to be captured when it was actually happening. So that kind of launched the documentary. In many ways, we weren't ready for that because we hadn't done the fundraising that we needed to do and put together the things that, on the back end that need to come together for the film to move in the way that it should. But you just couldn't miss it. It was just too key. So that's when I knew that, well, this is going to be the next project. Now, who knows how long that project is going to take? And we started in 2016 and it's 2021. And sometimes that's how it goes because you're looking for funding along the way and you're building things. And then Family Theater came in and they really were the game changer in making this a priority that we could all focus on and get to the finish line.
What was the reaction of these former players when they heard that there was a documentary being made?
Well, I think it was, because we interviewed like 70 people.
Right.
We're trying to they're all back. So you're trying to get people from out of town. And I don't think there was a full understanding, kind of like myself, or, I probably anybody to degree that is part of this story, the fans, the university, you don't get it until you see it. That because when you're in it and part of something, you're not necessarily understanding the magnitude of what was going on. So I think there was probably a lot of, well, I mean, yeah, that's a nice trailer, or this is good, but how are you going to make a full movie about that? Like, what's the story going to be? Because when you're in something, you don't understand how special it is. And so I think there was probably a lot of, I wonder what this is going to be about. Is it going to be about one team? Is it going to be, and it was really important that it was about Rob's full 38 years, about generations of women, because this program was built in some ways on one games that the fans started coming, but the legacy and longevity was built over time. And it was built on the backs of just incredible women who served as role models for the next generation. So yeah, I think it was a bit of a surprise for some when they saw it of what it was really about.
Yeah.
Which is the growth of women's basketball, like Rob said, but in our role in it, we did have a part in history.
Ultimately, what do you want viewers to know about Rob and about his legacy?
Great question. To be aware of what happened at the University of Montana, to be aware of in this case, one man who, in a time when people were not taking women seriously, when that wasn't the end goal, would have been probably a men's job. We're moving up to that eventually. That he believed in them, and that what happens when you believe in somebody, and it's easy. It's more difficult to understand now because it's so much more popular, and women's sports has come so far. But there was a time when it wasn't, when no one was showing up, when you were just playing for yourself, for each other, for your coach, and for your community. And when they started showing up. So I want people to know about this story because it's important. It's important part of history that is forgotten because sometimes these places, Missoula, Montana, a town officially, not even a city, you can forget. And some of the greatest things happen in places you've never heard of. And I really feel that. And Rob is one of the top 10 winningest coaches in college women's basketball. He's the only one of the top 10 not in the Hall of Fame. And Rob doesn't need to be in the Hall of Fame. That will never be something that Rob, I'm talking like you're not here, Leah. No, it's something Rob would never want. He himself would never push for, but it's something he deserves because he deserves that because of the 38 years that he gave to a university, to a community, to hundreds of women. He gave of himself. So I think it's time that this story is told to raise him up. Because when he, like everything, all boats rise. Everybody rises when you hear this story. But it started with him. He will always say it didn't. He will always say everybody else was the one that won all the basketball games. But every ship has a captain. And without the captain, the ship doesn't know where it's going. So he led it to shore, and as a result, a legacy has been established and will not be forgotten. So I'm just excited for people to hear about the story, and when they leave this, that they understand the greatness of sports and what the beauty and goodness of sports is supposed to be like, and for younger generations to remember that, like Rob said, it was not always this way, but this is what it means to compete, to be part of a family, and to be part of something bigger than yourself. There is no I in team, and there is in the sense of we, so much more can be accomplished.